Kunja Bihari Jaya Ramadava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasoda Nandana Prajajana Randana Yasoda Nandana Prajajana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Shirare Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jai Shri Radha Madhava ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Gurudeva ki, Srimad Bhagavad-Gita ki, Nitai Go Premanandi. Om Agyanati Mirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupakara Mayam Padantitas Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Dade Vrindavanishvare Vrishabhanusure Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you for being here for this evening's Bhagavad-Gita class in English. We'll be reading from chapter 10, text 35. Bṛhat-sāma tathā sāmnāṁ Gāyatrī chandasām aham māsānāṁ mārga-śīrṣo ṛtūnāṁ kusuma-ākaraḥ Bṛhat-sāma tathā sāmnāṁ Gāyatrī chandasām aham māsānām mārga-śīrṣo ṛtūnāṁ kusuma-ākaraḥ. Please repeat. Bṛhat-sāma tathā sāmnāṁ Gāyatrī chandasām aham māsānām mārga-śīrṣo ṛtūnāṁ kusuma-ākaraḥ. Bṛhat-sāma tathā sāmnāṁ Gāyatrī chandasām aham māsānām mārga-śīrṣo ṛtūnāṁ kusuma-ākaraḥ. Mataji? No. Vrindavan tathā sāmnāṁ Gāyatrī chandasām aham māsānām mārga-śīrṣo ṛtūnāṁ kusuma-ākaraḥ. Matajis? Bṛhat-sāma tathā sāmnāṁ Gāyatrī chandasām aham māsānām mārga-śīrṣo ṛtūnāṁ kusuma-ākaraḥ. Bṛhat-sāma tathā sāmnāṁ Gāyatrī chandasām aham mārga-śīrṣo ṛtūnāṁ kusuma-ākaraḥ. Bṛhat-sāma, the Bṛhat-sāma. Tathā, also, sāmnāṁ, of the Sāma Veda songs. Gāyatrī, the Gāyatrī hymns. Chandasām, of all poetry. Aham, I am. Māsānāṁ, of months. Mārga-śīrṣa, the months of November, December. Aham, I am. ṛtūnāṁ, of all seasons. Kusuma-ākaraḥ, spring. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Of the hymns in the Sāma Veda, I am the Bṛhat-sāma, and of poetry I am the Gāyatrī. Of months I'm mārga-śīrṣa, November, December, and of seasons I'm flower-bearing spring. Please repeat. Of the hymns in the Sāma Veda, I am the Bṛhat-sāma, and of poetry I am the Gāyatrī. Of months I'm mārga-śīrṣa, November, December, and of seasons I'm flower-bearing spring. Purport. It has already been explained by the Lord that amongst all the Vedas, he is the Sāma Veda. The Sāma Veda is rich with beautiful songs played by the various demigods. One of these songs is the Bṛhat-sāma, which has an exquisite melody and is sung at midnight. In Sanskrit, there are definite rules that regulate poetry. Rhyme and meter are not written whimsically, as in much modern poetry. Amongst the regulated poetry, the Gāyatrī mantra, which is chanted by the duly qualified brahmanas, is the most prominent. The Gāyatrī mantra is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam because the Gāyatrī mantra is especially meant for God realization. It represents the Supreme Lord. This mantra is meant for spiritually advanced people, and when one attains success in chanting it, he can enter into the transcendental position of the Lord. One must first acquire the qualities of the perfectly situated person, the qualities of goodness according to the laws of material nature, in order to chant the Gāyatrī mantra. The Gāyatrī mantra is very important in Vedic civilization and is considered to be the sound incarnation of Brahma. Brahma is its initiator, and it is passed down from him in disciplic succession. The month of November, December, is considered the best of all months because in India, grains are collected from the fields at this time, and the people become very happy. Of course, spring is a season universally liked because it is neither too hot nor too cold, and the flowers and trees blossom and flourish. In spring, there are also many ceremonies commemorating Krishna's pastimes. Therefore, this is considered to be the most joyful of all seasons, and it is the representative of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Of the hymns in the Sāma Veda, I'm the Bṛhat-sāma, and of poetry, I'm the Gāyatrī. Of months, I'm Mārga-śīrṣa, November, December, and of seasons, I'm flower-bearing spring. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're continuing to hear some beautiful glorification of Krishna's opulence in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita. So in text 22, Krishna already explained how he is himself the Sāma Veda, and a portion within the Sāma Veda is called Bṛhat-sāma. I found, I don't know much about it, actually I don't know anything about it, but Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, Tvam Ridim Hava Mahe. He says, this song is originated in the Rig Veda, and it is a beautiful song, as Prabhupada says here, sung by the demigods at midnight. Now Srila Prabhupada, or Krishna, glorifies Gayatri. Prabhupada explains the glories of Gayatri mantra, and he says how it's a regulated poetry. Gayatri here actually means a meter. Like he explains in the Purport, there's many rules and regulations for poetry, rhyme, and any such writings, and they're all regulated by a specific meter. But then he does go into explaining some glorification about the Gayatri mantra. He says the Gayatri mantra are for duly qualified brahmanas. The Gayatri is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It represents the Supreme Lord, and it is meant for spiritually advanced people. And it is the sound incarnation of Lord Brahma. In the first canto, first verse, in the Purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks something about the Gayatri. Of course, so many glorifications are there, but I just mentioned this one where it is explained in the Purport that Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the Gayatri mantra. specifically the word dhimahi. Dhimahi comes from the word dhyeyam, meaning it indicates the object to be worshipped. The object indicated by the word dhimahi in the Gayatri mantra. So in the Gayatri mantra, we are focused in our meditation on the ultimate object of worship, namely the Supreme Lord. So Vyasadeva Prabhupada explains, purposely invokes the Gayatri mantra, namely this dhimahi, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And here again, Srila Prabhupada says that the Gayatri mantra is meant for spiritually advanced people. And he says when one is successful in chanting the Gayatri mantra, he can enter into the transcendental position of the Lord. One must therefore acquire Brahminical qualities or be perfectly situated in the mode of goodness in order to chant the Gayatri mantra successfully and then attain to the stage of transcendentally realizing the Lord, His name, form and qualities, etc. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 4th canto, chapter 21, text 42 in the Purport, Prabhupada speaks some more about this Brahminical culture, how it gives us spiritual strength, it keeps our devotional service intact. He says in Krishna consciousness, we specifically focus on following the 4 regulative principles of no meat eating, intoxication, gambling or illicit sex. We chant a minimum of 16 rounds every day and chant 3 times a day the Gayatri mantra, and focus in our service of chanting Hare Krishna 24 hours a day. He says this will keep us spiritually healthy and strong. Now, in the Brahma Samhita, text 27, I wanted to share this translation about the Gayatri. It's very beautiful. Text 27, Brahma Samhita says, then Gayatri, the mother of the Vedas, being manifest, that is imparted by the divine sound of the flute of Sri Krishna, entered into the lotus mouth of Brahma, born from himself through his 8 ear holes. The lotus-born Brahma, having received the Gayatri, sprung from the flute song of Sri Krishna, attained the status of the twice-born, having been initiated by the supreme primal preceptor, Godhead himself. So Lord Brahma is sitting on his lotus flower, he's meditating what to do, and he heard Krishna's playing his flute song, and he heard and was imparted the Gayatri mantra, he was imparted transcendental knowledge, and then from that he was able to speak Srimad Bhagavatam to his disciple Narada Muni. So it is explained here that Krishna's flute only sings the glories of Srimati Radharani, and that means Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam only speaks about the glories of Srimati Radharani. Srimad Bhagavatam helps us to meditate on the glories of Srimati Radharani. And Srimad Bhagavatam itself is a commentary on the Gayatri mantra. So the Gayatri mantra will help us understand Srimad Bhagavatam. We say Brahma Gayatri because it originates from Lord Brahma, Brahma Gayatri. And here the word Gayatri is broken up into 2 syllables. Ganat, Gaya, Ganat means musical sound, and Trayate, achieve final stage of enlightened men. So the Brahma Gayatri mantra is a mantra to help us achieve the highest success in spiritual life. The Brahma Gayatri is to give Brahma Vidya, or transcendental knowledge. And Brahma Gayatri means that melodious sound which grants us the highest fulfillment in the world of consciousness. So we was able to just say, I want to say a little bit about Bṛhat-sāma and the Gāyatrī mantra. Then the next item that Krishna mentions is Mārga-śīrṣa, the month of months. There's 12 months in the year. Mārga-śīrṣa is being glorified, and Mārga-śīrṣa actually means, Mārga means deer, head, śīrṣa head, deer head. So it's when the moon enters the constellation of Mārga-śīrṣa, Shiras, deer head. It's the ninth month of the Hindu calendar. And as Prabhupada said here in the Purport, it's the time when the grains are being collected in the fields. It's the time of harvest. It's a very, very joyous, rewarding time of the year. I remember in my childhood, I also grew up in a village, and all the farmers at the time of harvest, actually, just like here in India and in your Hindu culture, it is also being practiced that the first harvest, the first grains, the first fruit, the first vegetables would be put on the altar in the church and offered to God as thanksgiving, because actually our life is dependent on farming and agricultural products like that. So it's a very joyous, very festive time after all that hard work and watching the weather and weeding the weeds and tilling the land. This wonderful reward is given. And of course we also know that this is the time when the gopis perform the Katyayani Vrata here in Vrindavan. So it's the months from November to December, and in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Prabhupada actually lists all of the months, and he says that each month has the name of Lord Krishna. So this Mārga-śīrṣa month is called Keshava. And then Krishna is saying of seasons, I'm spring, the flower-bearing spring. And definitely spring is such a glorious month. I just returned from Germany, and there also we experienced coming from winter into spring. And as soon as the sun warms up the earth, immediately, even out in the wild, in the fields, flowers sprout up, the trees burst into blossoms, and it's just such a joy. It's just such a joy, to be walking, and one moment you see this very quiet tree, bare tree, and then the next morning you wake up and there are all these beautiful pink or yellow or white blossoms all over, and it really gives a joy in the heart. And it made me think, because walking through nature and watching Krishna's creation in that way, it affirms and assures us as devotees especially that even so one of the biggest topics in the world is this climate change. But really Krishna is in control of the climate, not the human beings with their cars and whatever they're claiming, CO2. Krishna is in control. He's still arranging the seasons, the months, and everything is going on. And without his sanction, nobody can destroy anything, really. So I just briefly touched on these particular opulences that Krishna is listing in today's verse. And the chapter is nearly coming to an end. And I was thinking, actually, it's such a nice meditation. We've heard every evening so many beautiful opulences of Krishna. Sometimes you could think, why Krishna is glorifying himself? But actually, he's just speaking the fact. He's just assuring us in so many ways, I'm in control. I'm the origin. I'm the source of everything. And why he's telling, a main reason why he's telling these opulences is because to help us meditate on him. Because As Prabhupada is explaining in the beginning of the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna is speaking the Bhagavad-Gita through Arjuna, but for the benefit of all of mankind. So many chapters we've heard, first 6 chapters on Karma Yoga. Krishna is explaining about karma, about jnana, about yoga, doing your duty, watching out how to control the mind, so many things. Then he comes in chapter 7, into the knowledge of the Absolute and to devote how to attain the in the 8th chapter. And then, of course, in the 9th chapter, he's explaining the most confidential knowledge. What is the most confidential knowledge? Krishna says in the last verse of the 9th chapter, he says, Man mana bhava mad bhakto. Always think of me. Madhyaji mam namaskuru, mam evaishyasi yuktvaivam, atmanam mat parayana. He's speaking, he's guiding Arjuna. He's guiding Arjuna in so many ways to the point of pure devotional service. We heard in the 2nd chapter how Krishna is saying to Arjuna, just become my instrument, just become an instrument in this fight. And you might think, well, maybe Krishna is just speaking so many things to convince Arjuna to fight. But that's only just a part of the reason. Really, he wants him to come to pure devotional service. He wants him to come to the perfection of his eternal loving relationship with Krishna. And Krishna wants that for all of us. So he's saying, Man mana bhava mad bhakto. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Now we've heard in the past, how can you think of somebody all the time? Really, it's only possible if you have love for that person. So that love, of course, is lying dormant within everyone's heart, and we're trying, to awaken our love for Krishna, but we're sometimes, not so successful. So then Krishna is giving all these opulences, and these are such beautiful meditations, because each and every one of these opulence is non-different from him. And it is helping us to connect with Krishna. So I wanted to speak something about this remembrance, because we're hearing about, how devotional service is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So in this 10th chapter, specifically, Krishna is encouraging how to remember him, how to think of him all the time. So I wanted to, I forgot the book now. What have I done? Krishna. I wanted to read, actually, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I was going to bring my little nectar of instruction book with me, but I slipped up. I left it at home. So anyhow, in text 8 of the Nectar of Instruction, we're just reading and studying those verses again. So it was on my mind, so I thought I'd bring it up this evening. How to help, how to remember Krishna. And in the text 8, do you have it there? Do you have it? I wanted to read it. The text 8, Rupa Goswami is giving the essence of all advice. No, she can't find it. Anyhow, the verse is encouraging us also how to think of Krishna. Do you have it? Oh, great. Thank you so much. Right. Thank you. So the essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Braj, Goloka Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. It's a really, really important verse to understand, to study and understand, because it takes us from the neophyte stage, in the beginning stage, from the beginning stage of Vaidhi sadhana, up to the stage of Raganuga sadhana, and the perfection of Krishna consciousness. So this remembrance specifically comes up in the purport. Prabhupada says the Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for training the mind and to be always engaged in Krishna's business. The reason why I wanted to mention this evening was because I notice oftentimes, especially with young devotees, young grihastas joining our movement, they are in a material situation. They've got their house, their job, their partner, their children, like that, or even single people coming to our movement, and they simply think to transplant their material life into Krishna consciousness. They want the same material benefits of their particular lifestyle, just with a little bit of addition of some spirituality. But actually the purpose of Krishna consciousness is not to become comfortable again in this material world. The purpose is to learn how to control the mind, control the senses, how to always engage in Krishna's service, and how to ultimately reach that perfect stage of and going back home, back to Godhead, to Goloka Vrindavan. So for that, a process is given. And in Krishna consciousness, everything begins with hearing. Krishna consciousness movement is the hearing process. We need to hear from Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. In the Purport, Srila Prabhupada explains the five progressive stages of remembrance. So we're speaking about remembrance, how Krishna is giving these opulences so that we can remember him. And so these stages of remembrance are given in the purport to text 8 of Nectar of Instruction. And the first item is Shravana Dasa, constant hearing. When we come to Krishna consciousness, we take up this process of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. We have to be constantly hearing from the pure devotee, those that are in connection with Krishna. And that hearing, the effect of that constant hearing will be, I'll realize, actually, I understand I made a mistake. Now I know I'm Krishna Das. I'm the servant of Krishna. And then the next feeling, the next idea comes from that hearing, from that constant hearing. Well, how can I serve Krishna? Because I'm his servant. All right, so now how do I serve Krishna? Then the next stage of remembrance is called Varanadasa, or acceptance. One becomes attached to this hearing. One accepts that, yes, I must always engage in Krishna's service. That's my constitutional position. One becomes very attached to hearing, and one very much accepts the service of Krishna. The next stage is called Smaranavasta. Now, Smarana means remembrance, and that's what we are trying to discuss, this remembrance. Now, my practice has come to a stage where I'm absorbed in Krishna's service. All day, so many hours, I have hardly time to sleep. Devotees are doing so many services. And in that service, you're very much absorbed. How to please Guru and Gauranga. So, and you have to remember Krishna, because you're doing everything for the pleasure of Krishna. Like that. The next day, and then in that remembrance, that remembrance itself has 5 levels. When we first try to remember Krishna, like he's encouraging here through by describing his opulences, our recollection may be sometimes interrupted. It might not be steady. Sometimes we think of Krishna, but then other times we get distracted again or diverted, or like that. So it's kind of not steady. But in practicing to remember through our services and by hearing from Guru and Sadhu and Shastra, we will come to a stage of absorption where our remembrance of Krishna is uninterrupted. And that develops then into a concentrated meditation. And this is what the Goswamis were doing here in Vrindavan. We are fortunate to be here in Vrindavan. We are fortunate to go to the places where the Goswamis lived, where their samadhis are, where the temples are that they are established. So they taught by their example how to enter that deep meditation of constant remembrance. Then, from that meditation, that develops into a constant remembrance, and which is called anusmriti, and eventually leads to a spiritual trance. Of course, this is a very advanced stages. I'm just giving an overview, really for my own benefit, just to remember. But this spiritual trance, of course, we know Raghunath Das Goswami, he lived 50 years at Radhakund, and he was deeply absorbed externally in his bhajan, in his sadhana, and internally in his mood of constant remembrance of service to Srimati Radharani. So this smaranavasta, or absorption in Krishna's seva, which leads to a seva samadhi, or like a trance. The smaranadasa is now fully developed, and one actually understands one's original position. One knows now what is my original swarup, my original service with Krishna. And of course the perfection of that is prapanadasa or sampatidasa, where one is in knowledge of his swarup, and at the time of death he gets to swarup siddhi, which, when he leaves the planet, he gets his siddha deha, which has already been revealed. There will be no more material body, and one enters Goloka Vrindavan to engage in Krishna's lila in his service. And all of that, it's quite an advanced process, but all of this begins, this perfection of coming to know and engage in your original eternal position as servant of Krishna, begins with hearing. And that's why we're so fortunate to be hearing these opulences of the Lord and be able to remember Him in so many ways throughout the day and night. Because we know, as we know from the Brahma Gāyatrī mantra as well, that Krishna is the original Guru. And we know that Guru's instructions, Guru's Vani, is compared to the Krishna's sweet flute playing that was explained in the Gayatri mantra. Guru's Vani, the words Guru is speaking, are only the words of Srimad Bhagavatam, are only the glorifications of Radha and Krishna. In Sharanagati by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I found a nice verse. I'll just read the translation. Because for us, what means this flute playing? He's calling, He's playing His flute. That means He's giving us the sound of Srimad Bhagavatam. He's calling us, please come, please come. So by daily hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Bhagavad-Gita, we are being enchanted by Krishna's calling. And of course, Krishna is manifested in this age to us through His holy name, which is also non-different to Him. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Sharanagati says, when the name starts to blossom in the heart, He reveals His own spiritual form and characteristics. He steals my mind and takes me to Krishna. When the name is completely manifest, he takes me to Braj, where he shows me my personal form and role in Krishna's eternal pastimes. So we're so extremely fortunate, to be in contact with the Lord's instructions in Bhagavad-Gita, to be in contact with the pure devotee who is speaking Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam like Srila Prabhupada, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, his mercy in coming and bringing the holy name, and what is being explained here, just by chanting the holy name, Krishna's form is revealed, the Guru's form is revealed, and your mind will be taken to Krishna. And when the holy name is completely manifest in your heart, it will take you to Vrindavan, where he shows me my personal form and role in Krishna's eternal pastimes. So I always feel very encouraged by these verses, and I always like to speak something in glorification of the holy name, because that's what we're here to do. The holy name alone is everything. And we are here so fortunate to be in each other's association in Vrindavan to chant the holy name of the Lord together. In Harinam Chintamani, Haridas Thakur speaks beautiful verses, of course, in glorification of the holy name and the mercy of the holy name. In text 11:53 to 57, he says, and the reason why I like to quote this tonight is because in that remembrance and in this process, again and again it becomes obvious that we need to be very humble. We always need to keep ourselves in a very humble frame of mind, because actually we're not the doer of everything, of anything, we're not in control of anything. Everything is Krishna, everything is Krishna's mercy, and everything is given or taken by Krishna. So there's a beautiful prayer Haridas Thakur speaks, and he says, "O Lord, be merciful and appear on my tongue in your holy name. Dance there constantly, O Lord. I fall at your lotus feet and beg you. You may keep me in this world or take me to your abode, as you please. But whatever you do with me, feed me the divine nectar of your names. You have descended to this world to distribute the holy name. So kindly also consider me one of those you intended to bless. I'm the most lowly, whereas you are committed to uplift of the lowest. This is our eternal relationship, O Savior of the fallen. On the strength of this unbreakable connection between us, O Lord, I beg you to shower me with the nectar of the holy name." It's a beautiful prayer, isn't it? Very sweet. Who am I? I'm just a insignificant speck of dust, nothing. And who is Krishna? And somehow or other is inviting us, to a perfect, eternal, loving relationship with him. So we are very fortunate to be able to participate and be a part of that and receive that mercy. Thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any questions or comments, please excuse my shortcomings. Yes? Is there a microphone? Or you want this one? It's not working. You can take this one. Come, take this one. Just speak like this in the microphone. Oh, there.
Hare Krishna. In this verse, Krishna says, in month I am November to December, Mārga-śīrṣa.
I can't. Of the month is Mārga-śīrṣa, yes?
Yes. And in season, so in Veda I am Sāma Veda. And in so which Gayatri month is being referred? Om Bhurvasva Tassavitur.
The sound is really poor. Yeah, keep it a little bit further away. I can't hear it.
Which Gayatri month is referred here? Om Bhurvasva Tassavitur Varnam, that or Lord Shri Krishna Gayatri month? In this verse, Krishna says that in mantra I am Gayatri mantra.
Yes.
So which Gayatri month?
Well, I don't know. All I know is from the purport that Srila Prabhupada is explaining that the Gayatri is a word for Gayatri is the meter or the rhyme. So, and then Prabhupada, he brings the attention to the Gayatri mantra that we're chanting every day. So Srila Prabhupada is referring to this Gayatri mantra.
There is one mantra, Om Devki Nandanaaya Vidmahi Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tanno Krishna Prachodaya.
Yes.
So this mantra I think Purport is referring.
Yes.
Or that Saraswati Gayatri mantra which Saraswati chants.
I'm really sorry, I can't hear anything. He's speaking about the Gayatri mantra that the devotees receive in our movement at the time of Gayatri initiation. That's the Gayatri mantra he's speaking about. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Was a problem with the microphone. Is that okay? Somebody wants to add something? Yes, you have a question?
Hare Krishna. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, so actually we're given 7 Gayatri mantras.
Pardon?
We're given 7 Gayatri mantras.
That's true, yes.
But if in terms of how you're speaking that it's the meter, it probably means all Gayatri. Because actually every Devata even has their own Gayatri mantra. Every incarnation has their own Gayatri mantra. We have 7 Gayatri mantras, but there are so many more Gayatri
That's
mantras.
right.
And it probably means Gayatri as a meter, like you suggested when you were reading the purport.
And in the purport, Prabhupada is referring to Srimad Bhagavatam also.
Yeah, that's also explained as a Gayatri mantra.
Yes.
Yeah. And in Brahma Samhita, 3 Gayatri mantras are explained, aren't they?
Yes.
The Gopal Gayatri and the Kama Gayatri are also explained.
Yes, that's true.
All right, sorry.
Sri Radhe, I would just like to comment, because while you were explaining, you mentioned the word Dhimahi, while Prabhupada was giving the instructions. So Dhimahi mantra is a very sacred which comes into the Gayatris, which usually Brahmins are being initiated by their gurus. So they don't even pronounce it by the sound. So it's so sacred that, there are some rules.
It's silently chanted.
Yes. So I think he has given the glimpse by saying the word Dhimahi. And that is the most ancient mantra which in Sanatan culture, it has been so old, and that is, maybe it's my personal, but maybe that is the one which Prabhupada is basically referring to. My question is it is very tough to remember dear God every time. While you are working and you have a lot of attachments everywhere, you need to do your duties also. So some techniques how that could be eased.
That's right. In the conditioned state, we are only thinking about ourselves and our own enjoyments and our own comforts. But when we come to Krishna consciousness, we're trying to learn how to think of Krishna, how to engage in his service. So this sadhana process, this Vaidhi sadhana is given. And that's why we are following this program as given to us by Srila Prabhupada. We come to Mangalartik, we chant 16 rounds, we engage in services, we do our duties to our family and like that. But even while we're doing that, we're hearing, we can listen to some lectures, we can chant Hare Krishna, we can chant silently in our mind. We are constantly engaged in reading and associating with devotees and like that. And as we're going through our life and becoming more practiced, it will be natural for you to have the mantra always in your mind, to always want to hear something about Krishna. You won't be attracted to any mundane movies or songs or anything like that. So it's a gradual progression that you need to engage. Okay? All right. Thank you very much. Please excuse my shortcomings. Hare Krishna. I see you again. Haribol.